Even though Pluto's not a real planet anymore, it's still super interesting. Some scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku have said crazy stuff about it lately. They're wondering if Pluto might crash into Neptune. Is that even possible, or are they just messing with us? Let's think about what would happen if those two actually collided. So, Pluto used to be a planet, but then they changed their minds because its orbit is weird. And that decision still makes people argue. Some newer studies say Pluto's path gets too close to Neptune's, which could be bad. I mean, could they really smash into each other? What would that even be like? Pluto's trip around the Sun is like no other. It takes 248 years. Since we found it in 1930, it hasn't even gone around once. Also, it goes in an oval shape, not a circle like most planets. And its orbit is tilted way up, a full 17 degrees. Here's the weirdest part. Pluto's orbit crosses Neptune's. For about 20 years of its long orbit, it's actually closer to the Sun than Neptune. That's just strange. So why haven't they hit each other yet? Other stuff in space pulls on them. When Pluto was first found, everyone saw its orbit was strange. It wasn't flat like the other planets, and the tilt was insane. It was clear that they have never seen something similar. Even so, it stays pretty steady thanks to gravity from everything around it. It turns out it is all controlled by other bodies in solar system. Thinking about how Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun all pull on each other is complex. The path of the Pluto can be hard to expect. Even small things can totally mess it up over time. But computer models show Pluto's orbit has been pretty stable for ages. So, it's not as wild as it looks at first. Big, heavy things like Jupiter help keep Pluto on track for billions of years. These gravity forces are super important for our solar system, and nothing would collapse. Tyson and Kaku talking about a Pluto-Neptune smash-up might seem nuts. But what if it happened? It would be a mess. It would destroy Pluto for sure. Because it's small and icy, all the junk from the crash could be dangerous for other planets, including us. Neptune would also be affected. The crash could change its air and path. Kaku thinks studying Pluto's orbit could teach us about space travel. Looking at how gravity affects Pluto could help us plan future missions. This could help us avoid space dangers and explore far-off places. The rules we learn could also help us understand other dwarf planets. Pluto's orbit shows us space can be weird and unpredictable. If Pluto and Neptune crashed, it would be a huge deal for science. Could let us see how stuff works under crazy conditions. It would release tons of power and maybe show us how tiny particles act at super high speeds. While it probably wouldn't hurt Earth directly, the science we'd learn would be amazing. Pluto's weird orbit still gets people thinking, and the debate about whether it's a planet keeps things interesting. That's why studying gravity and orbits is so important. Pluto's oval path is just strange. Unlike the mostly round orbits of its neighbors, the gravity of Neptune and other big planets has helped keep Pluto steady. But, even with that, predicting what will happen to it in the future is very hard. A smash-up is unlikely. The relationship between Pluto and Neptune is a reminder that even in this great chaos, the balance must always remain. Everything still offer the best for future's mission. NASA's New Horizons mission gave us awesome pictures and data about Pluto and its moons. We learned about its icy surface. This helped us understand what shapes these far-off worlds. It was a collaboration of technology and teamwork which pushed into the beyond. From all the lessons from Pluto's discovery, we can be sure that outer orbits will reveal more information for formation. Pluto is officially a dwarf planet, which has started fights what we define in our solar system. Understanding the interactions with Neptune, as we are expanding our knowledge about systems. Even though the idea of Pluto and Neptune crashing is probably not going to happen soon, these events would allow us to understand how the everything exists over time. Pluto's interaction with Neptune is the most interesting thing about it. They are in lockstep with each other. They are in cosmic dance. Even though there are interactions, gravity holds them in such that they never collide. The solar system is still a trove. The New Horizon mission revealed ice mountains and all type of weather systems. The mission has inspired space exploration. Pluto's orbit is off from everyone that puts into puzzles. The weird nature is the reason that there is little order. So Pluto, which used to be a real planet, is now a dwarf planet way out there. Even though it got demoted, people are still super interested in it. Recently, some smart guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku have been saying Pluto might crash into Neptune. This makes you wonder if it's just a crazy idea, or if we should actually be worried. Pluto got kicked out of the Planet Club because it has a weird orbit. Scientists are now saying that Pluto's path crosses Neptune's, which could mean a crash. But is that even possible? And what would happen if they hit? Pluto takes 248 years to go around the Sun. Since we found it in 1930, it hasn't even made one full trip. Its orbit is also strange. It's not round like the other planets. It's more like an oval. On top of that, it's tilted, so it's not on the same level as the other planets. What's really weird is that Pluto's orbit crosses Neptune's. For about 20 years of its orbit, Pluto is actually closer to the Sun than Neptune. So why haven't they crashed yet? Well, other stuff in the solar system pulls on them. When people first found Pluto, they knew its orbit was strange. It was tilted and oval-shaped, unlike the other planets. Though Pluto's orbit crosses Neptune's, it's still pretty steady because of gravity. The way Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun pull on each other is a tricky math problem. Even small changes could make Pluto's orbit totally different over time. But tests show Pluto's orbit has been stable for a long time, so it's not as wild as it seems. Big planets like Jupiter help keep Pluto's orbit steady for billions of years. This keeps things in order in our solar system and stops things from getting too crazy. Pluto's orbit is a mix of steady and wild. It's hard to guess where things will go in space, especially with weird orbits like Pluto's. Even though computer tests can help, space is still hard to predict. Tyson and Kaku are worried about a Pluto-Neptune crash, and people are listening. If it happened, it would be really bad for the solar system. The crash would make a huge explosion, and Pluto would probably break apart. The pieces could hit other planets and moons, even Earth. A crash could also mess up Neptune's air and orbit. Michio Kaku thinks studying Pluto's orbit could help us learn about space travel. If we look at how gravity changes Pluto's orbit, we can learn how to travel in space. This could help us get ready for space dangers and visit far-off places. What we learn from Pluto can also help us study other dwarf planets. Pluto's weird orbit reminds us that space is wilder than we think. With how stuff moves in space and some ideas about physics shows us how important it is to know how planets interact. If Pluto and Neptune crashed, it would be big news for scientists. It could help us test ideas about physics. The crash would make a lot of energy and might show us how tiny particles act. Even though it wouldn't hurt Earth much, it would teach us a lot about the universe, especially physics. Pluto's weird orbit still excites people. The debate about whether it's a planet or not has made people care about it again. People like Tyson and Kaku are showing us how important it is to know about gravity and orbits. These things help us understand our solar system and why Pluto isn't a planet anymore. Pluto's lopsided and tilted orbit is different from the other planets that have round orbits. Pluto's orbit crosses Neptune's sometimes. Neptune and other planets pull on Pluto, which keeps its orbit steady. But it's still hard to guess what will happen in space. A crash between Pluto and Neptune is unlikely, but it shows us how balanced our solar system is. Studying Pluto can help us with space travel and understand how planets develop. NASA's New Horizons mission in 2015 took cool pictures of Pluto and its moons. Those images showed us that Pluto has ice and frozen nitrogen, which helps us understand this far-off place. The mission showed how far we've come in space travel. By studying Pluto, we learned about different kinds of planets and the edge of the solar system. These about Pluto are important for other missions to dwarf planets, which will help us learn about how planets are made. Pluto getting called a dwarf planet has made us think about how we name things in space. Studying Pluto's orbit teaches us about space and how planets move, especially as we go farther out into the solar system. By looking at how Pluto and Neptune interact, we learn more about how planets are made. Finding Pluto and studying it has helped us understand how planets move and how the Kuiper Belt, a place past Neptune, was made. Knowing about Pluto's orbit gives us hints about how gravity shaped the early solar system, which is important for finding planets that could have life outside of our solar system. Even though Pluto and Neptune probably won't crash, studying them reminds us that the universe is always changing. As we keep exploring space, studying orbits and learning about space will be important. Pluto's orbit teaches us about how planets move and what shapes them. Exploring Pluto and how it interacts with Neptune shows us that the universe is hard to predict. With every new thing we find, we learn more about space and far-off worlds. Studying Pluto's orbit not only answers about that planet but also helps us guess what will happen in space, which helps us understand the forces that the solar system. In short, a Pluto-Neptune crash is unlikely but shows us how changing the universe is. Studying Pluto's orbit and gravity gives us about space. As we keep studying these places, we can guess what will happen in space in the future. There's no limit to what we can find, and as technology gets better, we can study the universe even better. Exploring Pluto's orbit and its role in the solar system will keep shaping our understanding of the cosmos. Pluto's orbit and how it with Neptune has long fascinated scientists. Despite being a dwarf planet, Pluto makes us rethink how planets work. The fact that Pluto's orbit crosses Neptune's without a crash shows how gravity works in our solar system. One cool thing about Pluto's orbit is that it with Neptune. For every 3 times Pluto orbits the Sun, Neptune orbits twice. This keeps them from getting too close. Pluto and Neptune are like dancers that never touch. This shows how precise and balanced things are in space. Neptune's gravity keeps Pluto in a stable orbit. Without it, Pluto could crash or get knocked off course. It's also important to look at the Kuiper Belt, past Neptune. Pluto is the biggest thing in it, and its orbit teaches us about that area. The Kuiper Belt is like a time capsule from when the solar system was forming. NASA is sending missions to study these areas. The New Horizons mission, which flew by Pluto in 2015, gave us amazing pictures of Pluto's surface and air. That Pluto has frozen plains, ice mountains, and even its own weather. It also showed us how diverse Pluto's moons are, which helps us understand how moons form. The New Horizons mission showed how good we're getting at exploring space. These missions teach us about places like Pluto and pave the way for exploring the Kuiper Belt. The mission's success has made people want to explore these areas more. Even though Pluto's orbit seems stable, it's also weird and tilted, which makes us wonder about the solar system. The fact that Pluto's orbit is so different from the other planets gives scientists a puzzle to solve. Pluto reminds us that the solar system isn't as simple as it looks.